What advice would you give to business leaders in the financial services industry today?
At the end of the day, everything comes back to resilience, but there's more to do.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the latest edition of FS in Focus. My name is Guy Munton, and I lead Baringa's finance, risk and compliance practice. Today, we're talking about operational resilience, which is a key regulatory priority and a focus area for firms around the globe. In an environment filled with uncertainty, our clients often ask what being resilient means in practice and what they need to focus on in order to remain fit for the future. To help shed some light on this, I'm delighted to be joined by Salina Ladha, partner in our finance, risk and compliance practice. Welcome, Salina. Great to have you with us.
Thank you for having me.
Resilience feels like a topic that's been on the agenda for some time now, but seems to be gathering momentum. Why is this?
I think that's right. We've definitely seen a step up in regulatory scrutiny, and that's through the introduction of new resilience requirements, an increase in focus and supervisory reviews, and also a whole bunch of information gathering exercises by the regulators. There's been a particular focus on cyber and third-party resilience, and that's to be expected, both given the increased reliance on third-party providers, the increased prevalence of cyber attacks, and the exposure of firms to those cyber attacks through their supply chains. If you pair that with an ongoing period of global uncertainty and instability, preparing for the unknown has never been more important. And that is at the heart of operational resilience, making sure that you are prepared for the unexpected, that you can keep providing your important business services through a period of disruption.
It's clear that being prepared for the unexpected has been a theme that's been driving regulatory change for some time now. But what more can we expect to see?
Honestly, lots. So in the UK, we have the critical third-party regime that came into effect at the start of the year, and we're waiting to see which firms get designated as CTPs and what that regime means in practice. You also have the incident and third-party reporting consultation, which closes mid-March, and a further consultation that we expect to see later in the year on ICT management. In Europe, DORA came into force on the 17th of January, but there's still a lot that firms need to do to fully implement the requirements, particularly around penetration testing. In Australia, we have similar requirements that firms need to comply with by July this year, or next year if you're a non-significant financial institution. The US is a really interesting case. We saw the OCC talking about changing operational resilience requirements last year, but against the political backdrop, we don't really know what to expect. But what we have seen is a step up in supervisory focus by the regulators. And really, that's probably just the tip of the iceberg.
So it sounds like there's a great deal going on internationally. For our clients and firms that operate in multiple jurisdictions, what do these changes really mean for them?
I think there's some real challenges that firms need to navigate. They're having to evolve their operational resilience operating models to take account of ever-changing regulatory requirements, and that's a lot to be dealing with. For global firms, although there's been a high degree of international coordination on this topic, and as a result, a high degree of consistency in the requirements, there are still regional nuances that firms need to be taking into account. Different terminology, different expectations, and different accountabilities and responsibilities. And they need to take all of these things into account as they are determining what their global operational resilience operating models are really going to look like. But I think there's also opportunity here. In the UK and in the European Union, the requirements around critical third parties are going to increase the information flow and the level of engagement with those critical third parties. For the firms that are using those suppliers, that presents an opportunity to improve the way that those relationships are managed.
So against the backdrop of all those international changes, what is it that our clients really need to be focused on?
Over the last few years, firms have been focusing on implementing the operational resilience requirements in their jurisdictions and remediating vulnerabilities. But there's more to do. Firms need to enhance their recovery capabilities when it comes to severe scenarios such as a severe cyber attack or failure of a critical third party. And that means looking at strategies such as data vaulting, data rebuild capabilities, and also enhancing contingency and exit plans for third parties. Recent operational incidents have shown that firms have more to do when it comes to understanding their supply chain dependencies, improving their communication strategies, and then thinking about peak periods when it comes to scenario analysis. As we look ahead, though, firms need to think about embedding operational resilience within their operating models, bringing together business continuity and IT continuity so they can really drive greater value and insights. And that's been a real focus area for regulators. And then also thinking how you can leverage your other risk and control frameworks, so your operational risk, third-party risk, change management frameworks, to be proactive in the way that you're thinking about resilience going forward.
So there's clearly a lot to think about. What advice would you give to business leaders in the financial services industry today?
I think firstly, join the dots in your organisation. At the end of the day, everything comes back to resilience. Implementing new technology, making changes to your workforce, introducing new products, moving into new geographies, all of those are changes that will have an impact on your resilience profile. Crystallisation of supply chain risk, climate risk, geopolitical risk, all of those will have an impact on your organisation, on your workforce, on your infrastructure. So it's really important to be thinking about resilience in your day-to-day decision-making. I think secondly, consider how you might be able to use AI to improve the way you manage your resilience within your organisation, be that to help you more quickly identify potential disruptions, respond more quickly to those disruptions, to identify potential scenarios that you want to be planning for in the future. But you also need to think about what are the risks that use of AI might bring. And so considering where is the data being held that those AI systems have access to, where there are automated responses, making sure there's a fail-safe in the event that those don't work. Thirdly, communication. I mentioned this earlier. We've seen examples recently where firms can spend too long in putting out communications in the event of an incident because they're so focused on making sure they have all of the information. But as a result, that can have an impact on consumer confidence and ultimately a firm's reputation. The example I always go back to is Norsk Hydro. They suffered a cyber incident in 2019, and the way they managed that incident, and particularly the proactivity of their communications, for many was the driver as to why their share price rebounded and in fact rose as they started to recover their capability post that incident. Finally, I think the last piece of advice that I would give to firms is to really think about their place in the ecosystem and the intersection between their resilience and the resilience of the system as a whole. And that has been a real focus for regulators. They want firms to understand what is the impact of disruption to a firm individually for the market. And that means bringing together operational resilience and financial resilience modelling.
Thanks, Salina. Some great food for thought there. My key takeaway is that looking ahead, firms need to focus on how they integrate and embed their resilience capabilities within the DNA of their organisation. As firms' growth strategies change and the use of technology and AI evolves, their strategies for ensuring resilient services need to evolve in parallel to keep pace. I hope you've enjoyed today's edition. Thank you for watching and stay tuned for our next FS in Focus.